Now I just want to make sure I don't I share something on the screen that I'm not supposed to be sharing, like a
Yeah.
supporting document or something like that.
Yeah, let's not do that either.
Okay, guys.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for this evening's City Council meeting. Right now, Mayor Bennett is having some technical issues logging on. So in the meantime, I'll be chairing the meeting. With that, Ms. Robinson, can I get a roll call for the attendance, please?
Miss Vice Mayor Parton, Mayor Bennett asked me to serve as clerk this evening.
Okay, that's not a problem. Mr. Altman, do you mind doing roll call, please?
Absolutely not. Mayor Bennett, Vice Mayor Parton,
Here.
Councilor Randolph,
Here.
Councilor Holloway,
Here.
Councilor Gore, Councilor Denton,
Here.
Councilor Pelham.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mr. Parton.
All right, thank you. With that, can I have a motion to go into closed meeting, please?
I
Ms. Pelham?
yield. No, I yield to Ms. Denton. I can't see.
Okay. I make a motion to move to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code, section 2.2-3711A1, to discuss and consider personnel matters, including the interview and appointment of prospective candidates for employment. City Clerk.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Denton, seconded by Ms. Pelham.
Council.
Is there any further discussion? None? All right, Mr. Altman, do you mind doing roll call, please?
Sir. Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett, Councilor Randolph,
Yes.
Councilor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Gore.
Yes.
You.
All right, thank you, everybody. We will be going into closed session now. Okay, we're back in open session now.
Mayor Bennett, are you able to share your screen or do you need Mr. Parton to do that for you?
Yes, I need Vice Mayor Parton, please.
All right, hold on one second.
I'm on my iPad, so. I think I could try. Give me 1 second. Hmm.
Can everybody see the screen?
I can see it. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have everyone here? Okay.
Okay, we're now streaming, so you guys can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Mr. Altman, are you
ma'am.
available? Okay, he's online. Okay, awesome. We would like to does anyone like to make a motion to come out of closed session?
Make the motion to come out of closed session.
Second.
Second,
The motion's been made by Counselor Pelham, and I did not hear the second. It was two people at the same time.
It was Councilor
Thank you.
Randolph.
Okay. The motion has been made by Counselor Pelham and seconded by Counselor Randolph. The question's in front of the body for discussion.
Don't
Is
we
there
have
any discussion?
a point of
I don't-
order?
Yes.
Don't we have to do the question first? Whether or not we comply with the process of closed session?
Well, that's, I think after we come out of closed session, then we certify.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, yes. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
Yes. Here.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
yes,
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
So we have the certification pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.23712D, where only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements and identified in the closed meeting motion discussed during the closed meeting. Mrs. Denton, Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
yes,
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now move. Counselor Pelham, you have your hand raised.
Oh, no, excuse me.
Okay. Now we'll move to the special meeting agenda. And the item we have, the agenda is discuss and potentially amend city council rules and procedures. And the meeting was called by Counselor Denton. Counselor Denton, would you like to take the lead?
I'd like to make.
Sure. I'll start it, but I look forward to
I'll put a order first.
having a discussion by all of council.
Okay,
Point of order.
but yes.
No, we
uh,
amend
well,
the agenda. If we, if there, I would like to make an amendment to the agenda. Is that the first question before we start into our discussion?
I'm actually gonna call the city attorney on this. I wasn't here in the beginning of the meeting.
We didn't,
So I can go ahead and ask if,
we didn't do amendment to the agenda. I mean, there wasn't called for it. Was there any changes?
okay, what is your amendment?
I would like to make a amendment to consider this agenda to be moved forward to next Tuesday since it's already on the agenda to discuss rules.
Second.
The motion has been made by Counselor Pelham, seconded by Counselor Gore. Discussion? I don't see. Okay, I see Counselor Pelham and then Counselor Gore.
I just want to ask a question for clarification. We didn't adopt tonight's agenda. So we need a motion. I think that's what we are trying to do is adopt the agenda. Just for clarity, since, just to make sure you're on the same page. And then also, since we didn't have a motion to adopt the agenda, the recommendation is to move it to the next meeting under council rules. And I want to ask the city attorney a question for clarity.
Yes.
I don't think she's.
Vincent?
I don't even think she's on.
Not.
I'd like to ask if we could take a 10-minute recess, or excuse me, a 5-minute recess while I locate the city attorney.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion, well, I can't make the motion.
Well, I'll make the motion for you. I'll do the motion to recess for 5 minutes, which will be 7:37.
Mhm.
I'll second it.
The motion's been made by Counselor Gore to recess until 7:37, seconded by, I did not hear,
Oh, myself.
Vice Mayor Parton. Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
Yes,
Counselor Pelham,
Yeah.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the time is now 7:37. Ms. Robinson, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Madam Mayor.
Ms. Robinson, I have a question for you. Is there a procedure when there's a special meeting called by a counselor to adopt an agenda?
No, ma'am. You would go through your processes as you normally would. So, I mean, if you're saying is somebody going to move to approve the agenda, if that's on there, yes, you would do that. That's customarily what would happen at the start of a meeting.
Is required at a special meeting?
It's customary for all meetings. So
Okay.
if there's an agenda that has been prepared, then you would go through the formality of adopting the agenda.
Okay, prior to you jumping online, Counselor Gore would like to ask you a question.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So where we are now at the meeting is Counselor Pelham made a motion to adopt the agenda, but have it amended that SM1 be moved to the next meeting on Tuesday, regular scheduled meeting on Tuesday. My question I have for you is, historically, we've been told, council has been told that special meetings are reserved for items that cannot be discussed during a regular meeting because they're time sensitive or the action can't wait. And also for items that have not been discussed at a public meeting. Council rules and procedures have been on several meetings and is currently on the next meeting agenda. So is it proper for this to be the discussion for tonight based off of the historical guidance that we've received?
Okay, I can point to my historical guidance, which has also included among those topics that are proper for special meeting, those that cannot be reasonably addressed in a regular meeting. And I've previously opined that the rules would fall in that category of proper topics for a special meeting. So that is not sort of the basis on which I would say that this was not available to be addressed tonight at all.
Okay.
I can actually go back through the email and actually find something that talked about it, because I've had this question in several iterations over the past 6 months to 12 months easily.
Yes.
I think I've said that the rules are proper for a special meeting because oftentimes they're work session items, and work sessions are traditionally special meetings. Except in this instance, the special meeting was, the work session that this was originally scheduled for was the one that was sitting on our regular meeting agenda. So that's the only wrinkle from any previous discussion as to whether or not a special meeting to discuss
Well, I guess,
procedure should proceed.
thank you. So I guess, just for clarity, I understand that point. Thank you for bringing that up. This item has been on the agenda and adopted to be a part of the setting a work session to schedule this. So I guess my question is essentially pulling it off of an adopted agenda to have the discussion right now when all of us were not prepared for this or aware.
The challenge, and this has been a challenge procedurally, is that it was already scheduled when the special meeting was called. And that's the only challenge. The problem that I think you're going to kind of run into problems with is you've got a charter provision, which gives every single counselor the authority to call a special meeting. So unless the subject matter is improper for a special meeting, you're going to have to fall back and just deal with the charter language that everybody and the city manager can call a special meeting. Mm-hmm. So, whether it's in line with, previous comments along these lines, that's a different discussion, but it doesn't that won't rule the decision.
Mhm.
And that's really where we are. There were some efforts to try to figure out if there was a distinction of what the subject matter of tonight's meeting would be compared to what was going to be discussed next week. But at the end of the day, even if there's no distinction, I think the adjustments have to be made next week. And the last point I would make to your question is, while the work session was scheduled for February 9 and everything was prepared for February 9, the agenda for February 9 has not yet been adopted. So you're not dealing with an adopted agenda for the February 9th date.
Okay. All right.
Does that satisfy your question,
Yes.
Counselor Gore?
Ms. Robinson answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, to follow proper procedure, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
There's the motion already on the floor.
Right, the adoption, to amend the agenda, but we have not even put a motion to adopt the agenda, but okay.
No, the motion was to adopt an amended version of the agenda.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mhm.
All right, that was made by Counselor Pelham and seconded by Counselor Gore.
That's to move. Repeat the motion, please.
The motion was made by Counselor Pelham, seconded by Counselor Gore, to move this matter forward to next Tuesday's meeting.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton, Counselor Denton,
Your mic is mute.
Okay, I'm back. No.
Counselor Pelham, muted mic.
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
No.
Counselor Randolph,
No.
Counselor Holloway, your phone's muted, Ms. Holloway.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
No.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Motion fails 3-2. I'm sorry, 3-4.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second. The motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton, seconded by Mayor Bennett. Discussion? I see no hands. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham,
No.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
No.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
No.
Motion carries 4-3.
Okay. Counselor Denton, this is your special meeting.
And thank you, Mayor. Yes, we tried to do this in December. We found out we were working from two sets of rules, so our city attorney has gathered that information and has combined the two and has sent each one of us a copy of the combined rules as of today. So we should all be on the same page. And there are a few discussions. I hope you will discuss it, but my idea is to try to make some changes to our rules of procedures that will enhance our meetings and make them more efficient and more professional. And let's see if we can get that done. The first rule that I guess, let me start with the city attorney is here, and in Rule 105, which is our voting methods, we talk about how it is our responsibility as a counselor to vote on all motions unless there is some, well, how did they put it? Areas of conflict, financial or personal conflicts. And it says that in order to, if you're in violation of Rule 209, then you could be disciplined. There is nowhere in our rules that define discipline or misconduct. In talking with our city attorney, in order to make that a part of our rules, we would have to do an ordinance to direct misconduct. What is misconduct? How it would be treated. So I would like to see us agree to work with our city attorney and come up with an ordinance that would address this concern. And we can talk about that a little bit later.
Counselor Gibson, are you making a motion?
No, I'm just,
Discussion?
well, yeah, I'll make a motion that we work with the city attorney to draft an ordinance to address misconduct.
Would you like to put a date on that?
I don't want to, I don't know her work schedule. By the end of, Ms. Robinson, end of February, is that reasonable?
From my perspective, I think the motion is a little vague. So the challenge is, you're saying, let's work with her. You know, I think it's a two-step process for me. Has there been a determination by the majority that an ordinance is desired or necessary? And if yes, then we get to some place where then the city attorney works to draft something. I just think the way the motion is currently worded is a little vague, and it will probably pull in some activity that might not be desired among the entire body. And I just want to be sure from my perspective because of the effect of the ordinance.
All right, thank you. Then I would make a correction to my motion that my motion would be to determine if misconduct by any counselor should be a part of our rules. I believe that.
I'll second it for discussion.
The motion has been made by Councilor Denton, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. Mr. Almond, do you have the wording for the motion?
The motion was to determine if misconduct by any counselor should be a part of the council rules.
Yes.
Okay,
Y'all come up that with in the agenda meeting.
so the motion has been made by Counselor Denton, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. It's up for discussion. I have one hand raised, is Counselor Randolph.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I believe that council sets each mayoral term a couple of council members that work on ethics. Did we have that done again this time? Were there two counselors appointed this time as an ethics committee?
Yes.
Okay, so my question or my thought is that council can to have this subcommittee work with once this vote is yay or nay. If it's yay, have the two members, I don't even know who they are this time, but whoever they are, have them work with the attorney to come up with some proposals that they can bring back to council. I don't know if anybody would be interested in doing it that way, but certainly that's my thought. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Pelham?
I would just like to know how did March come? Did y'all make the motion in the agenda meeting? How did you come up with the motion?
Mrs. Denton just said it and I wrote it down.
That's not what she said.
No, she first said a motion to work with the city attorney to draft an ordinance to address misconduct. And then she said that she was changing her motion to be determine if misconduct by any counselor should be a part of the council rules. That was after her conversation with the city attorney.
Correct.
You put it together arbitrarily. You didn't ask her which one she wanted.
No, she said
No.
she was changing her motion to
I
what I
did.
read.
Okay.
That's what she said.
That's exactly what I said. After the city attorney said it was twofold, I changed the motion to address if we wanted to, I believe that we need to see if misconduct should be in our rules. And I'm making that just that way. I'm not saying right now, I think what Councilor Randolph is saying would come after, if we vote for this, to make it a part of our rules. That would be maybe how we go about working with the city attorney. But we've got to first vote to see if we want this a part of the rules and procedures.
Yeah, but that's backwards. Most of the time you send it to a subcommittee to come up with the recommendation for the whole council. And I think Ms. Randolph was saying, send it to the ethics committee and let them make.
No, ma'am.
Oh, of course not.
No.
Then afterwards, right?
Don't ad lib or interpret. What I said was
Look,
if
I have
the
the
motion
floor.
passes,
You're the
then
floor.
we will.
I'm not finished, ma'am. Okay? So my point is, in most times,
Counselor Pelham, I just want to let you know that this is your second time speaking.
yes, ma'am, thank you.
Mhm.
And no, it's not my second time. She interrupted me and I didn't say anything. You allowed Ms. Denton to interject in my comments that I was making. I have 10 minutes as of now to the rule change. This is my first time on the floor. I allowed Ms. Denton to say what she had to say in rebuttal, but I was saying I don't want to yield the floor to Ms. Randolph.
Okay, so I want to let council know, please do not interrupt a counselor when they're speaking. And you have up to 10 minutes or 3 times to speak,
Right. Of course.
whichever one you exhaust first.
And
Okay,
Mr. March, Ms. Altman keeping the time.
I'm trying.
I appreciate that. Okay, but anyway, most times when a larger body, city council makes a decision, if they have a subcommittee that looks at something that's in the direction of what you're saying with the ethics committee, it would make sense to me for them to ploy over the situation with the attorney or whoever they want to use as an expert, come up with a recommendation and bring it back to the body. That's what I'm used to. Maybe y'all have something different in mind, but that's what we've been doing for 16 years when we use the subcommittee model. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Gore.
Thank you. Speaking to the motion on the floor, I can't support it because either suggestion I have concerns about. The first is the ethics committee suggestion in regards to pushing it there. We've had on the agenda to officially formalize the ethics committee since last year because there were items that several people wanted to put on the agenda for council to take action on in regards to misconduct of council members. The ethics committee hasn't been established. There are no guidelines. There's nothing for that committee. So you can't send it there because we haven't established the ethics committee. It's just been in name only, not via resolution or ordinance, and there's no framework for them to work within. The second reason why I have the concern is without going through all of council, whether it be a public discussion, I do have concerns about how this could go in regards to some of the political history that some members of council have. And so I'll keep my comments general to that nature. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have the only two that has not spoken yet, and I'll give them an opportunity. It's Vice Mayor Parton and Councilor Holloway. I don't see your hands up, so I'm going to go back to in the rotation. Unless you want to say something.
I don't have anything to add at this time.
Okay, Councilor Holloway.
Well, due to the
Thank-
fact that we have not established an ethics committee, I think that should be established first before we vote on this motion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Randolph.
I know this is my second time speaking. Thank you, Mayor. We do have an established ethics committee. They have no guidelines at this point. I agree, but my suggestion for this motion was simply my suggestion. Nothing more, nothing less. I believe that the way that we are doing this to make sure that everybody on council knows that there is a potential for any type of misconduct or any kind of aspect of that, whether or not we want to vote for that to be looked at and be part of our charter. Once we as a council or a majority of council decide that we do want that to be part of it, then it goes to the ethics committee, which we have assigned people to. No, they have no guidelines, but isn't that what they're going to be working on with the city attorney to set up guidelines, to set up aspects of what misconduct means, what the potential recourse could be, and then they bring those suggestions back to us. I find this to be a very acceptable way of doing it for the subcommittee that we've never used. And for the motion, I think that the motion on the floor is the way to go to allow council to have discussion about doing this misconduct. And then if we decide to take it the next step at my suggestion, or we don't, that's fine with me. I was simply making a suggestion. The motion on the floor, I will be supporting. I think that that is a good idea. I think 2 years ago, I would have supported more for this particular subject. and to have the two people that were on it at that point in time do more than what was allowed or not allowed. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, I do see your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Bennett. The reason I'm asking this question is because I need some clarity. As far as the information that I have, there is and there was an ethics committee formed prior to the time I started my tenure here. Councilor Randolph indicated that there might be an omission of guidelines that were formed at the time of the formation of the committee. Comments from Councilor Gore indicates that there was no formal formation of the committee nor guidelines, but I can tell you this, the committee is not the place where the guidelines will be formulated if the committee currently exists. So the process would be, if the committee has been properly formed by the city council, the city council should have at that time charged the committee with its jurisdiction. If it failed to do it at the time it formed the committee, that would have to be something the council does before the committee can take any action. But the committee is not empowered to make its own rules and procedures or determine what its scope of responsibility would be. So I just wanted to make clear what the sequence needed to be if the committee was in place or if the committee was not in place and there were no guidelines to follow. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilor Gore?
Thank you. City Council, just to provide clarity to that, I don't know if that was a question, Ms. Robinson, for me to answer or for anyone to answer.
It really wasn't a question. I just wanted to make sure you understood that there was a suggestion, at least I understood, that if council agreed and were tending to agree with the suggestion or the proposal by Council Randolph, that the matter be handed off to the Ethics Committee, but the Ethics Committee would kind of formulate its own guidelines. That's not how it works. And it doesn't work that way here in Hopewell or anywhere else. The Ethics Committee gets its power from the City Council as a body. The subcommittee doesn't tell the body how it's going to operate. So we need to have those parameters in place before any action by the Ethics Committee actually can be done, whether it's with respect to these rules or anything else. But again, I thought all of these things were in place because I understood there was an Ethics Committee. If it's not in place, then we're going to just have to deal with it later and probably in another context. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so my opinion on the matter still stands. The Ethics Committee was just established for the public's knowledge like 2 terms ago. It was never given guidelines or rules or context or authority by council. Members were tasked with doing that. That wasn't completed. And again, when we tried to address this last year, it was placed on the agenda for council to take action, and that never occurred. And just also for the record, the same thing applies to the Finance Committee, which is why Councilor Pelham and I stopped going to those meetings because we had no jurisdiction and asked for council to do that. So I would ask for this to be added to the next regular agenda to again discuss the Ethics Committee, no matter what this determination is. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other hands raised. Mr. Altman, can you please state the motion that's on the floor once more prior to us roll call?
The motion on the floor is to determine if misconduct by any counselor should be a part of council rules.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilor Denton,
Yes.
Councilor Pelham,
No.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
No.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
No.
Motion carries 4-3.
Thank you. All right. I'm giving the floor back to you, Counselor Denton.
Okay, thank you. All right, Rule 203, discussion limitations. In that rule, wherever it says 10 minutes, I am making a motion that we change that to 3 minutes total. And where it says up to 3 times, I'm changing that to 2 times. So it reads as this: counselors do not ask questions during presentations of regular or special business items. After a presentation concludes or no presentation is made, a counselor may, or on any item, speak up to 3 minutes total, which includes questions, discussions, and debate. If the item is an action item, a motion is made and seconded before questions, discussion, or debate ensues. If the counselor speaks for less than 3 minutes initially, the counselor may speak a second time if every other counselor has had an opportunity to speak. Take out that next third time until every counselor has spoken or had the opportunity to speak up to 3 minutes or 2 times. And the rest of the motion, the rule stays the same. The only thing I'm changing is where it says 10 minutes, it becomes 3 minutes. Where it says 3 times, it becomes 2 times. And I make the motion that we make those changes in Rule 203.
Second.
The motion has been made by Counselor Denton, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. It's before the body for discussion. Counselor Gore? Counselor Gore, your mic is muted.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Counselor Denton a question if she would mind, if she doesn't. So this is probably one of the first items I placed on the agenda when I became chair, to address the amount of time to speak and some other tweaks to the rules to make for efficient meetings. Because the way it stands now, you have up to 70 minutes on a topic. It was on the very first meeting agenda, and I've had it on every agenda for the past 2 years, to reduce the time for people to speak. I guess my question is, what has changed your mind on this item now? No, I'm not being sarcastic. What's changed your mind now in regards to reducing the time that you've experienced?
It has never, my mind has always, I voted against 10 minutes. I've always thought that was much too long.
Yes.
When you consider that we could possibly have 60 minutes, 70 minutes per item, that is way too long.
I agree.
And I have been totally against it from the beginning, but my vote didn't count.
Yeah, I'll go back. If I think you might have been in the majority with me now that you raised that point. I said minority, I'm sorry, the minority with me, because we did not get this passed. So I agree that this needs to happen because it makes for efficient council meetings. If this passes tonight, it would just be a shame that it didn't pass when it needed to 2 years ago. But thank you for bringing this back up.
Thank you, Councilor Gore. I appreciate that, but no, I've never liked that 10 minutes, but I appreciate your comment.
All right, Counselor Randolph.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, speaking to this motion, I think I was the first one in the last 2 years to put this on the agenda, and I'll ask Counselor Denton if she remembers what that as well. I then acquiesced and voted for the 10 minutes, and I've changed my mind because I've seen where it's gotten us. And it has gotten us into a lot of arguments and bickering back and forth. And I think that just addressing the motions and the issues is where we need to be. And so I will vote for this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Pelham?
Well, yes, I'm always for the 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it takes for someone to express themselves. And being that this is Black History Month, I have a problem with people trying to limit people's speech. So therefore, I'm not in favor of it. I always vote against it because I think everyone has a right to express themselves. When you have over 2,000 people in a ward, and for instance, if 2,000 people had an opinion, of course, it would take more than even 10 minutes to express what they wanted to say. Therefore, I'm not in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Counselor Randolph, you still have your hand raised. Did you want to go?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry.
And I apologize. I have to go around. I don't see Counselor Holloway. You don't have a option to raise your hand. Do you have anything that you would like to say or discuss?
I'll agree with the 10 minutes because I think that each individual, each counselor should have the right to express themselves more than 3 minutes. 3 minutes, you cannot sometimes get the point across. So I'll agree with the 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other hands raised. Mr. Altman, can you repeat the motion prior to us calling the roll?
I've got what I believe the motion to be, as opposed to reading the entire proposed amendment, was to change Rule 203 to limit speaking to 3 minutes total and a max of 2 times per counselor.
That's correct.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham,
No.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
No.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
No.
Motion passes 4-3.
No, wrong answer this time. 5-2.
No, Ms. Gore voted no.
She voted no. Yeah.
You voted yes, I thought.
No, Pelham,
I voted no.
Holloway, and Gore voted no.
Oh, okay, thank you. I thought I heard her say yes.
Good grief.
Good grief.
Counselor Denton?
Okay, I'm gonna switch just to, to 303. That is the agenda. That is the next one.
Not on the agenda, it's not.
303 says agenda.
Mhm.
That's what the rule 303
Okay.
is, the agenda, the regular business of council.
I'm sorry, Counselor Denton. I would remind council to let each counselor speak their turn and no interruptions until it's your time. Counselor Denton?
Okay. If you have a copy of the combined rules, 303, right down at the very last sentence. The final draft shall be prepared and submitted to the city manager the city attorney, and the mayor.
Is this, can we not put this on the screen? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
It's on the screen.
It's on the screen. I'm sharing it right now.
I know, but what I'm seeing is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what I'm seeing is not,
Point of order. She can get to speak now without permission, Madam Mayor. I did the same thing and you came back and told me basically.
I was getting ready to speak,
Okay.
Counselor Kellum.
Thank you very much,
Can you please give me a second?
Michelle.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I won't say anything else.
Thank you. Counselor Denton?
Okay, you've got the one up there. Can you put that back up there, the one you just had? Yeah, okay. The proposed, of course, 303 doesn't stop just there. It goes on for another full page and a half. But yes, what you see on the screen, it says all matters to be placed on the agenda shall be submitted to the city clerk no later than Monday, 1 week prior to the regular meeting, together with the backup supporting materials. And it says the city clerk shall reschedule an item to the next meeting agenda should any supporting documentation be missing. The city clerk and submit a final draft to the city manager, the city attorney, the mayor, and vice mayor for review no later than 10 o'clock on Wednesday. The packet shall be approved and given to the city clerk, not the paralegal, on the Thursday prior. Amendments to agenda before closed session is by majority vote, and amendments to the agenda after closed session, majority vote of council. They are the changes so far. Now, if you've got the combined list, it goes, if you can look at the consent agenda, the very last item says proclamation, resolutions, presentation. I would like to remove that from the consent agenda. And my motion is to make that a separate item, such as presentation, informational presentations. They would be done not as part of the consent agenda, but have its own thing, informational presentations.
Counselor Denton, I'm sorry. Are you making a motion?
Yeah, because
Yeah, but this is such a long, Mayor, this is such a long.
Okay, so I just would
You've
like
got
to
all
know
of
if
this on the
break
screen.
it up,
Right, you've got this on the
Order.
screen.
because it's just
point of order, Madam Mayor.
yes, what is your point of order?
On this proposal, it says the proposed amendment has nothing to do with presentations in this last part that she added. I don't see that.
Well, that's
I mean-
because we didn't go all the way through it.
This is part of her,
Where is it?
tonight.
Is that part on the
She's
agenda?
asking you to scroll down. So when you got a packet today and you picked it up, in your packet, you should have received the PowerPoint, and you would have received a full list of the council rules that the city attorney has printed out for us. She combined both of them together. They were also emailed to you.
Okay, well,
That's what Counselor, if I'm correct, am I correct, Counselor Denton? Is this what you're
Yes.
referring to?
We're now on the combined rules.
Okay.
All right, on page, I don't know if these have page numbers, but where it says consent agenda. I'm requesting, making a motion to take out the very last one, proclamation, resolutions, presentations, and putting that separate as informational information. It is not part of the regular meeting. It is not part of the consent agenda. It has its own designation. And these presentations would have a time limit of 10 minutes each. Okay. Then if I have, okay.
I'm sorry, can I get, Counselor Denton, give me 1 second. If you have a mic that is on, I can hear background noise and conversation. If you can mute your mic until it's your time to speak, please, so we can hear the presentation. Thank you.
I don't have anything going on in my house. It's just me. All right. Then I am making a motion to eliminate the under reports of council, to eliminate individual requests and city councilor request. And it will be part of the reports of council. We will have, oh, I got to, hang on a minute. I got too many things going on here. All right.
Okay, this is the last time I'm going to ask council to please mute your mics until the presentation is over and you're called upon. Or I will have to mute your mics for you.
Okay, I'm trying to find where we have, believe me, I've got so many sheets of paper here. Where we have reports of council, that's where each councilor will have the opportunity to speak as to what they're concerned about, if there's an issue, whatever that would be. They would bring this up. It may be the testing for the vaccine for COVID-19 is going to be in Ward 5 or 6, wherever. And I could put that in there as something that I would like for people to know.
Counselor Denton, I'm going to have to stop you right there. We're going through this, but even if when you're making a motion for any of these, there's a lot of parts in here. So can you just go ahead and whatever is your first motion, because there's so many parts within the motion.
This is a long one, so I agree. All right, I'll make a motion that we do this one we see on our screen first.
So you're making a motion to adopt the
proposed amendment that we see here on the screen.
Okay, I'll second for discussion. Motion's been made by Counselor Denton, seconded by Mayor Bennett. It's on the floor for discussion. First hand I saw was Counselor Pelham.
I don't have any comments right now.
Okay. Counselor Gore.
Yes, I just have a question in regards to the striking of 2/3 majority for amending the agenda. The reason why that number is so high is so that a majority couldn't just control and dominate our council meeting agendas other than how they vote for motions. This really lowers the ability to have that democratic control over our process. If we've experienced a majority for the past 2 years, so if a majority wants to deny items, they can make motions and do that, but to control the agenda completely is a different story. Is there a reason why this is being lowered to a majority instead of 2/3 as it historically has been?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
The motion on the floor is 303, Counselor Gore.
She
And
said-
it is to adopt this amendment. It has nothing to do with the.
No. And said what's on the screen, and what's on the screen is 303, and at the bottom of 303, it does say amendments to agenda before closed session by majority vote of council, amendments to the agenda after closed session, majority vote of council.
Okay, that now. My apologies.
No worries.
I was just gonna say, that's what we've been doing for the past 2 years.
Right, and so that's when some of us have argued that we haven't been following our rules. That's how majority's been able to control the agenda and everything on it for the past 2 years. So I just want to make sure I was get clarity on that. No,
As far as I know, Councilor Gore, that's the way we've been doing it ever since I've been on council.
Okay, thank you for answering my question.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Counselor Randolph.
Thank you, Mayor. That got a little convoluted, so I'd like to make sure that we all know what the motion is again, please, for this particular vote that's coming up. So if it could be repeated, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to adopt the proposed amendment that is shown before you. If you can't read that, I will go ahead and read that for you.
No, I can see it. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't assuming.
Okay. I see no other hands. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
Yes,
Counselor Pelham, Counselor Pelham.
Hold up. No, I said, I thought.
Okay. Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Oh, thank you.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say no?
Yes, no.
Okay. Motion carries 5-2.
Okay.
okay. Now, we stopped there. The only other change in this particular is, well, there were two, because I did take out the proclamation, resolutions, presentations out of the consent agenda. I make a motion to take it out of the consent agenda, put it under a separate item, information presentations, and a limit of 10 minutes per presentation.
Second.
Mr. Alman, do you have the motion? Can you restate that?
Can somebody quit doing the paperwork?
There's a motion made by Counselor Denton to remove proclamation, the item which is, I believe, C9 on the agenda, proclamations, resolutions, and presentations from the consent agenda, and move it to a standalone item called informational presentations, and limit those presentations to 10 minutes.
I'm so sorry. I was speaking with my mic off. The motion has been made and it is before the body for
I have
discussion.
a point of information.
Yes.
I wasn't clear on, there was a comment made by Counselor Denton that this would not be part of the regular meeting. Where would this appear on the agenda process if it's taken out of the consent agenda?
Can I answer that, Mayor?
Yes, please.
Okay. It would come right after. That is the last item on the consent agenda. And you would make, that would be the very next item before unfinished business and regular business. It would come right after the consent agenda.
Well, and if I may, that confuses me even more. Maybe I don't understand, because wouldn't that put it on the regular agenda if we voted on the agenda and the consent agenda, and then it comes after that? Would that not put it on the agenda?
Well, it's going to be on the agenda.
Okay, well,
but
you
it's
had
not
said
coming
earlier.
under regular business.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you. I appreciate the point of information.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor Pelham.
Yes, your question is, you're putting you're relating resolutions to proclamations and presentations, when it seems to me the resolutions are business type items that need to be in the consent agenda. And then if that's so, you just made a comment that you want to move 9 to 10. Are you just moving it numerically? I'm still confused by your answer. Are you moving it out of the total consent agenda and making another space for resolutions, proclamations, and presentations?
Yes.
It's
I don't have the numbers. I'm sorry. That might be confusing.
You're gonna make a
I have consent
item.
agenda, and the items are listed under the consent agenda.
Yeah,
The
but
last item before public hearings would be proclamations, resolutions, presentations.
it wouldn't be under the consent agenda. It'll be a separate
It
item.
would go, just that one line would be under a separate item. It would not be a part of the consent agenda.
So may I ask the city attorney, is that appropriate to move resolutions out of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I need to know. All right, and so it'll be so she has to make another motion to put it somewhere else on the agenda, correct?
What I'm suggesting, right, that would be the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, but this is a business item, so you're gonna have to make a motion to place it there. You can't just say, I suggest.
Yeah, that's what I've got. I said right after before the public hearings, before unfinished business, before regular business, we will take care of any ordinances, resolutions, or presentations that would come right after the set routine work sessions, if we have any. And it would be set apart as informational presentation.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm voting no anyway, but I'm good.
Thank you. Counselor Gore?
Yes, I'll ask the city attorney my question just for clarity, because when you first arrived here, this is one of the things you brought up in regards to how our agenda template should be adjusted. because we can't act on items in the consent agenda by doing presentations. So when we discussed this, when you first arrived, the remedy was to put it as R1. So that way we could do presentations, but we didn't get the support to do it that way. So is this the same equivalent, except for it'll just have a different header, but it'll be under our regular agenda?
May I respond to that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so no, I think, Mayor Gore, what I recall is that I simply had an issue of anything in the consent agenda that wasn't adopted or rejected by an up or down vote. That's how consent agendas are utilized
Yes.
as in general.
Yes.
Where the presentations, proclamations would otherwise be relocated on your agenda would be a matter of discretion. In previous localities where I've worked, they've had their standalone. You could include it in regular business, but in essence, it's just one of those things that you kind of take care of at the beginning of a meeting. I've seen it mostly at the start of an agenda before regular business or the locality business is taken care of, because if it's a resolution or some kind of a recognition for someone in the community, most governing bodies want to take care of that so people aren't waiting around until the regular business starts to get to that particular part of the agenda. But after you move it out of the consent agenda, which was really sort of the essence of where I was mostly concerned, I think it becomes a question of convenience for the body. So it's not a direct answer, but it is a direct answer relative to how it should be postured relative to the consent agenda.
Yes. So let me just ask my question a little bit clearer, because I'm on the same page with you. I guess my question is, since it's going to be pulled out of consent agenda, which I agree with, when I asked about the regular agenda, I'm not literally saying R1s. I was just giving that as an example of what was tried to do before to remedy the situation. Would it be when we adopt the agenda, that will be a part of the adoption? We're not going to do the consent agenda information thing and then the agenda. Is that clear? Because the way it's being described is like it's a third section, and I just want clarity on that.
I think accompanying this move, the order of business will have to be reconsidered.
Okay.
So it's not a matter of pulling these things out meeting by meeting, but you're going to have to reassess where you want it. We've had discussions as a group and individually with almost every single counselor as to what should be on the regular agenda or regular business items agenda. But that's going to eventually fall to the discretion of the body. But I simply, again, the hard lines for me is the consent agenda is an up and down vote, and nothing else should be considered in that process or fall under the label of consent agenda.
So if we were to pull this out, like if I understand Counselor Denton correctly, she said a different section called, I think she said information. I'm just gonna say information abbreviated. My question is, we'll adopt the consent agenda, then we'll have this information section, and then we'll have the regular agenda that we normally adopt. Would we have to adopt that information section separately, or would that fall under the agenda portion? I don't know if my question is clear.
Yeah, now I hear what you're saying. This is going to fall in that conversation as to the practice of folks separately approving their consent agenda. To me, once you approve your agenda, which has the consent agenda already embedded into it, you are approving your consent agenda. The practice of this council is to have 2 votes. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't think that's necessary, but that's your practice. But whether you vote on the consent agenda separately or not, once you approve your agenda, if the proclamation is not a part of it, it's already been approved when you approved your whole agenda at the start of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Counselor Gore?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I'm going to circle, and I'm sorry if I forget this all the time, but Counselor Holloway, you don't have an option to raise your hand. Do you have anything that you would like to say for discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I see Miss Robinson.
Yes, ma'am. I think I want to just correct what I just said. I think I used the term approve the consent agenda. What I wanted to say is there is a separate process here for adopting the consent agenda, and that's what my comment was meant to. You would have to take a vote on the consent agenda, but I'm saying is once you approve your general agenda, there's no need for you, once you get to the consent agenda part of the our agenda, to say, is there a motion to is there a motion to amend the consent agenda? All of that needs to be done at the start of the meeting. And then once you get through the approving of the agenda, it's done. And then some localities actually would just say, we don't even take a separate vote on the consent agenda, but you can do that if you want, but there's no need to open that section up again for a decision or a motion to amend. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, if possible.
Thank you. So I see no other hands raised. Mr. Altman, can you restate the motion?
Yes, ma'am. The motion was to remove proclamations, resolutions, and presentations from the consent agenda and make it a standalone item called informational presentations with a 10-minute limit per presentation, and place it on the agenda prior to public hearings.
All right, roll call, please.
Excuse me, can you read that again?
To remove the item from the consent agenda, proclamations, resolutions, and presentations from the consent agenda, making it a standalone item called informational presentations with a 10-minute limit per presentations, and you place it prior to public hearings. So if I understand Mrs. Denton correctly, on the agenda, if this is approved on the agenda for next week, proclamations, resolutions, and presentations will be a part of the regular agenda prior to public hearings.
Correct.
Okay. And the motion was seconded by Mr. Parton.
All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Denton,
Yes.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph, you're muted, Counselor Randolph.
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And the last part of this long rule is to eliminate individual requests and CCR requests and put under reports of council that we, the councilors can ask, recommend a topic or an item of interest. They can, if it's something that they feel strongly about, they could ask for to be placed on the regular meeting agenda after, well, let me see. I don't want it to go, if it's an item that a counselor has an interest in, that counselor would ask the approval of council to give it to the city manager to, I want to say investigate, but that's not the right word, to study it and bring back his recommendations to council. It would also be a time for counselors to report on a meeting they have been to or to speak to their particular ward. And there would be a limit of 4 minutes per counselor.
I'm sorry, Counselor Denton, did you say that was a motion or are you just having a discussion?
Made it as a motion. I don't know if city manager got all of that or not.
No, I didn't. So you
Okay.
made the motion to eliminate individual requests.
Well, let's we've got some time. Let's discuss how council would like to do this.
Great. Okay, so then since it's on the floor for discussion, I see Ms. Robinson, is your hand still up or? Okay, Counselor Pelham?
Yes, I didn't know we could just have an open discussion without a motion on the floor first. But if that's possible, the city attorney, is that correct? Or we can discuss.
There has to be a motion in a second in a meeting. In a work session, you would not have that requirement.
Thank you.
Okay.
Secondly,
Okay, so
ma'am,
Counselor Denton, if you don't have a motion, we cannot discuss this.
you
Okay,
can discuss
well,
it. You
let
can't.
me make a motion.
No, she said you can discuss it in a work session. Didn't
This
you?
is not a work session, Counselor Pelham. This is a special meeting.
Okay, but I have okay.
Make a motion that we eliminate individual from under the reports of council, that we eliminate individual request, citizen counselor request, and under the reports of council, give each counselor an opportunity to recommend an item of interest that they would like to maybe that they would like to see on a future agenda, and ask approval of council to direct the city manager to look into that matter and come back to council with recommendations. The next part would be, this would give counselors.
Counselor Denton, we're going to go with that first, that motion.
Okay.
Can I get her to repeat? So eliminate from under reports of council, individual requests and citizen counselor requests.
Right.
And give each counselor the opportunity to recommend an item for
An item
council
of
future,
interest
an item.
that they would like to see placed on a future meeting with the approval of city council, and asking the city manager to research and bring back recommendations.
I'll second it for discussion. Mr. Alman, do you have the motion? I'm going to open the floor for discussion.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm still writing it down.
Okay. Let me know when you're finished so that I can open the floor.
I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Pelham?
Yes. So if a citizen came to you to put something on our agenda, she basically has the person through me, through each counselor would have to get permission from the entire council that it can go on the agenda, then we have to wait 2 weeks more for that item to actually go on the agenda if the majority at that meeting approves it. And I look at that as, again, another way of trying to weaken people's ability to speak and be heard. And of course, I'll never be for that. And I don't understand why you, and then to have it, Mr. Altman to research something, he's not an elected official. So bring him into the mix is not fair to him or to the citizen. And that is just, to me, totally off to even propose such a thing. But that's my initial comments. Thank you.
Oh, a point of information.
Yes.
Can Mr. Altman restate the motions? I want to make sure I heard it fully.
Mr. Altman?
Okay. The motion would be to amend Rule 303 to eliminate from under reports of council individual requests and citizen councilor requests, and give each counselor the opportunity to recommend an item of interest that they would like to see on a future meeting with the approval of city council, and asking the city manager to research and bring back a recommendation on the item. If I captured it correctly, Mrs. Denton.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
No.
I'm sorry, I'm talking. And Councilor Gore, your point of information was answered. Hello, Councilor Gore, are you here? Am I on? Yes.
You're speaking.
You said it was answered. Were you asking me if it was answered?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Randolph?
I have a point of information that I'd like to ask the city attorney, if I may, about in other jurisdictions. Has she worked anywhere that they follow, that they don't have citizen council requests and things of that nature?
Yes, ma'am. For all of them, that would be the answer, yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that other localities do not violate citizens' abilities to speak, because they don't do it this way either. So it
Well,
is not unconstitutional, or it's not something that would create problems for us in the terms of we're preventing people from speaking. Is that since other jurisdictions do that, would that be appropriate to
First of all,
state?
I'm not saying it's appropriate or inappropriate. Those are not
Okay.
words that I've used, but
But
first,
other jurisdictions do.
secondly, it's not postured in the context of violating constitutional rights for citizens to speak. First, in every instance, including Hopewell, there is a citizen comment period, and that is the period where
Period,
the
right.
United States Supreme Court has said it is a privilege, it's not a right for citizens to show up and just speak to their local governing body. So
Right.
that's number one. There's no constitutional violation in that regard.
Correct.
The second is this: in other jurisdictions, when people are approached by their constituents for issues of importance or importance to them or to the community at large, the members, the elected officials, adopt that as their positions. They don't say it's a citizen request. They
Right.
put it on their agendas as issues that they want to bring before the body, and they
Right.
do not have in front of them the sort of, I will just use the term shield of that
Yeah.
being how they're bringing the matter before the body. They just bring it before the body. And if in the process of delivering why they have brought this issue before their board or their council, they may say, you know, my constituents are interested in. I have
Right.
been contacted by my constituents, but it doesn't have to necessarily show up on their agenda as a citizen request. But that's simply it. You know, you can have this. I've just never seen it, and
Yep.
it doesn't mean that you can't do it here.
Right. Okay. Just thank you for that clarification. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure it was clear. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to make sure I understood that, is it any counselor or every counselor? Is this going to be something that each one of us will have to do each week, or it's just those that want to?
Those
So
that
I wasn't clear. I'm sorry?
Those that want to. It's
Okay,
your
'cause you said-
opportunity to speak however you want to speak, whether it's informational.
Okay, so it's any counselor, not, yeah,
but
any
it's,
counselor then.
Any
Okay.
counselor, but limit it to 4 minutes.
So should, okay, so I'm wondering if there should be an amendment to the motion to say any counselor rather than every counselor. I don't know, but anyway, okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, it's really just, Mayor, just what I'm trying to do is to give every counselor an opportunity. If they have something they would like to share with their constituents or an interest that they may have, it gives them the chance to do that during that period.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Pelham?
But you have to get the approval
I
of
have
the.
a order. I have my hand raised before. Shirley.
Yeah, go. Okay.
You know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Counselor Gore?
Yes, I have some questions to get clarity on. So in regards to this, Ms. Robinson, if this was to be adopted, this would take effect at our next meeting that the agenda should be drafted for now. We already submitted our items.
That would be at the discretion of council to say when these rules become effective, Mayor Gore.
Okay. So I'll just say publicly, I have a constituent request on the agenda. They specifically requested to present to council because communications from citizens has been removed from our agendas for the past 2 years. So I do have a request already submitted for my constituents to address council for on a matter that they have been waiting to address. This motion would remove that if council chose to take this into effect at our very next meeting. The other thing I need clarity on is in regards to Denton, you said that we would have an opportunity to speak, but if we wanted to get action on an item, we would have to get council's permission. Would that be for all 7 of us?
Yes.
Why do I need your permission?
So you're saying, and
Well,
that wasn't me. That wasn't me. So, so for clarity for the motion, if this passes, can you be specific to say all 7 members of council will have to do that?
it would not have to be every councilor would vote for that. It'd have to be a majority.
No. What? No,
Like the other thing.
no, that's not what I'm asking.
Okay, what are you asking?
What I'm saying is, you said in order for a member of council to get a vote on a matter, a majority of council would have to approve it first for it to be on the agenda. So my question is, does every one of us have to go through that process? All 7?
If we have an item of interest that we would like placed on a regular meeting agenda, then we would have to have approval of the council, majority approval.
So all 7 members of council would need to get.
Sorry, someone's
I'm
phone is
hearing
beeping.
a background noise. I don't know.
And I think you're answering my question. I just want to make sure I understand the process that you're trying to have us consider. So all 7 members of council will be required to go through that process in order to have something considered for a majority vote, correct? You're saying just do it for all of us
Yeah, I mean, it would be for anybody who would like to bring something
on the
back
agenda?
to council to have the city manager research it and get his recommendations and bring it back for us to act.
Okay.
Yes.
So my other question is, how is that no different than our current process now? Each member of council has equal legislative authority, meaning we're all individually elected by our constituents to be their voices and their advocates to put something on the agenda. Once it's placed on the agenda, it is up to council to decide how to proceed with that request. So if a majority of council wants to deny the request, they vote no. If a majority of council wants to approve it, they vote yes. If a majority of council wants to amend it or make changes, they do so and they vote to approve or deny it. That is the current process right now. But with what you are suggesting, if I understand correctly, in order for us to even have a vote of council, we would have to get permission from council. So it's weakening the role of council. Because right now you have that authority to say, for example, let's pick one of the items I already have on the agenda. I talked about trying to create after-school programs for citizens, right? Council, that was placed before council. So council will make the decision as the elected officials. Council could have chose to give it back to city manager for him to research and bring it back a recommendation. We have that right already as counselors. But if what you're describing passes, that right has been reduced to now, instead of having everyone be held accountable for how they vote on a matter and let that be the determination, we have to get permission now to even have something considered, and that is censorship. Because if, due to the political climate, if you have 4 people that don't like something, then you can never have something on the agenda. That's different than just having 4 people vote something down meeting after meeting. At least your item can be heard. But in this instance, you may not even have the opportunity to advocate on behalf of your constituents.
You will have a chance to present whatever item you want, but council, before it does anything else, it goes to the city manager for research, so he can come back with a recommendation to council for us to make a determination.
Okay.
With all the information available.
Okay. So if I understood what you just said now, and I'm just really want to get clarity, then what you described to me is worse. Because in essence, you're pre-deciding the decision of the governing body. You're saying automatically it's going to automatically go to the city manager for determination. So therefore, let's say you put something on the agenda and I actually do support it and I want to vote to approve it. We can't do that. We won't have to wait for the city manager to come back and let us know as his supervisors and the elected officials if we should be able to take action on something. That's based off what you just said. However, what the motion is, the way the motion is stated, that's why I'm asking for clarity. You said, and I'm not trying to put nothing against you, I'm just trying to make sure I get clarity on this. You said before it can even make it to the agenda for action, we have to get approval from majority of council. So the motion, so that's right.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, ma'am.
Right. So that is censorship. Okay. Thank you. Because council members can decide which wards get represented through the legislative process.
Councilor Pelham, can I ask a question before I call on you again?
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Ullman, can you please restate the motion?
Read all this mess up in here.
The motion would be to amend Rule 303 to eliminate from under reports of council individual requests and citizen council requests, and give each counselor the opportunity to recommend an item of interest for a future council meeting with the approval of city council, and asking the city manager to research and bring back a recommendation.
Okay, can I pass my gavel to Vice Mayor Parton? Because I'd like to speak.
Sure.
Okay. So with this motion, I would like to kind of talk about the IRs and the CCRs. After hearing the city attorney tonight with IRs and CCRs, I believe in the past there have been, a plethora of IRs and CCRs that were backed up. So it ended up being meetings till hours and hours, or it would become a situation where arguments would arise and we'd never get through these IRs and CCRs. My concern with this motion is I would still like to have the if you have to restate it as reports under city council for counselors to, I would like to see counselors still place items on the agenda, but not 20 items per council meeting. Because I think that there should be some type of idea that, hey, look, I don't have to have 20, another counselor can have 7. And if we don't get past these, it'll still add on and track on. So I do believe in limiting these, whatever, if we decide on IRs or CCRs, I believe in eliminating how many we can actually place on an agenda, just to be considerate of time. We have individuals that go to work all day and they get home and we have meetings till 10:30, midnight, 2:30, and they still have to get up and do everything else again. Or we have senior citizens who are like, okay, well, I can only, I am up until this certain point in time. I can't stay up until a certain time. Or you have individuals like myself. If it's not a council meeting, I like a scheduled bedtime. So I think that I would like council to think about that and consider that as well. But right now, the way I feel is that there still needs to be a way for council to place items on the agenda, but have it limited for consideration of the agenda. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Vice Mayor Parton. I'll take the gavel back. Miss Councilor Pelham?
Yes, thank you for that. What I was going to say along with that, again, you limited people's rights to be elected officials when I have to put something in on the agenda and get it approved. In this notion, it says the mayor and vice mayor, and I understand. I guess my question is, how did the vice mayor get into this situation? I mean, technically, the vice mayor should be going to the agenda based on the majority of council last year voting for you as the vice mayor to take over the agenda and supervision of the clerk. So technically, it seems that the new vice mayor should be doing that. I'm not sure if he is or not, but I had placed that on the agenda for Tuesday to discuss. But and also I'll say that for that, but he didn't read that as a part of his motion, so I assumed that part is taken out. Is that correct, Ms. Denton?
No, we passed that part. That was the first motion that we made, was how the proposed amendment might read. And it was on your screen, and that was the first motion, was to accept that. And it says mayor and vice mayor.
Okay, well, I voted against that anyway, so, but,
You
okay.
voted against it, I think.
Yeah, I did. But anyway, again, to take away the rights of me as an individual counselor, elected official, I totally disagree with. So with that, then I would like to make an amendment to your motion to go along with what the mayor was just saying, is basically to leave CCRs back on the agenda, or whatever you want to call it, and council requests instead of individual requests, or whatever, city council requests, to leave that back on the agenda and let the action of a procedure go through without going to be preempted by this agenda. And at the time that is this, I guess, more discussion, but at the time it's placed on the agenda as a CCR, that is the time for the council to vote whether or not they want more research from the city manager, or they want to either approve it or disapprove it. But going to a preemptive state to get approval for me to put something on my agenda that I have 1/7 of a right to do, it's just total censorship. And it's just not right.
Second. Can you just restate the motion, Claire, please?
Motion is just to place the not CCRs, because I agree that we have a communication from citizens.
I'm sorry, is it, the motion on the floor is for you to make an amendment?
To say that the CCR should go back on the agenda so that every elected official. will
So the
have a-
motion on the floor is for you to be able to make an amendment to the
Okay.
motion.
Okay, thank you.
Seconded by Counselor Gore. Roll call for Counselor Pelham to be able to make an amendment to the motion.
I do have a point of order, if you don't mind.
Yes.
My point of order would be to the city attorney in regards to this amendment. Well, I guess I can wait because I want to know if this would be better when we make this, if we get an opportunity to make the amendment to move this to a work session due to lengthy discussion.
So are you asking the city attorney that?
Yes, I'm just trying to get clarity on how best we should make the motion.
I will ask you to be a little bit more precise, Counselor Gore, because coupled with that procedural question is just a question and advice.
I'll wait until after this. I still have my hand for the floor later on, so I'll wait until then. I get to what you're trying to say because we have a motion on the floor.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is for Counselor Pelham to make an amendment. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
No,
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
My mic's on. I want to amend the amended motion. No.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
No.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Passes 4-3.
Okay, Counselor Pelham, what is your amended motion?
The
Can you
minute
state that clearly for the Mr. Altman to document?
to extract from this proposal. Oh, let me see.
So you were saying to leave CCRs.
Yes. But leave CCRs and definitely delete anything that has to go through a preemptive group before a CCR can go onto the agenda.
Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second. Okay, I'm sorry, I heard a second. I don't know where it came from. It was at the same time.
Holloway.
Counselor Holloway, second that
Yes.
motion. Motion's made by
Counselor
Counselor
Pelham.
Pelham, seconded by Counselor Holloway.
Okay, can I
Discussion?
just
Counselor,
repeat the motion real quick to make sure I captured Mrs. Pelham's motion correctly? So Ms. Pelham, is your motion to leave CCRs on the agenda and to allow them to be on the agenda without a majority vote of council?
No, I mean, no, allow them to be on the agenda without I guess the agenda committee to preempt it off the agenda. I don't know how y'all can, the way it's written, it looks like every CCR has to be pre-approved by the agenda committee, sounds like to me. I don't know what it means. It's confusing as hell.
I'm sorry, I totally lost power there for a minute.
Counselor Randolph, I'm sorry, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Mr. Altman, was that clear for you?
Yeah, I think so.
This
So you-
part says has to be submitted to the city manager, city attorney, mayor, and vice mayor. I don't understand why
Well,
Counselor Pelham, sorry.
That's
Give
motion.
me one.
I don't give a helping.
So there's a motion on the floor. Mr. Altman, could you restate the motion?
Just to do what you just read, March, Miss Madam Mayor, is fine. Just leave the CCRs on the agenda. That's the amendment to that motion.
I didn't hear it because I lost power.
so the motion that Mrs. Pelham has made, and based on what she just said, is to leave CCRs on the agenda.
CR, council request.
Okay, counselor request. Okay. And Mrs. Holloway made that second.
Okay, and there's the question is before the body. Counselor Randolph?
Thank you, and I'm sorry, I totally lost power there for a minute from a blip of electricity, so I had to reboot. While I agree with Ms. Pelham, I would like to see the motion tightened up a little bit and indicate that we are going to take off IRs and CCRs and have only CRs or whatever it is that she's decided on. And
Would you like to make a
Not yet, not
amendment to the amended motion?
not yet. I want to finish
Okay.
my discussion. But
Okay.
what's more important to me is because I believe that there has been a lot of censorship thrown out. And I believe that from previous council having so many motions being added at one council meeting or another, that in sense was censorship because other people couldn't get to anything that they wanted to add. So I would like to additionally add the limitation on the number of CRs any one counselor can have at a time. And so I
Counselor,
would like to propose an amended agenda that states that CCRs and IRs will be no longer, they will be known as CRs and will be limited to 2 per counselor per any agenda until those one or both of those items come off, when counselors can then have a total of 2 at any one meeting.
okay, so I have a question for the city attorney before we do this.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam City Attorney, Counselor Randolph, there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of steps that's happening right now with this motion since the beginning. Counselor Randolph would like to make an amended motion to the motion that's already on the floor. Do we have to vote on her being able to make that motion?
Yes, ma'am, because
Okay.
as I've been tracking the conversation,
Mhm.
the amended motion was put to the body for discussion, and it was during that discussion that Counselor Randolph said she wanted to amend the amendment. And so
Okay.
that's where we are. So there's going to be a motion to whether we approve the motion for her to amend the amendment, and then you would vote on what her actual proposal is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes, ma'am.
you would like to make a motion to amend the amended motion?
Yes, ma'am.
I will second it for discussion. I would second it. The vote on floor is for Counselor Randolph to make an amended motion. I see hands raised right now.
I don't know if this is proper, Mayor, but I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting until we get through this one item.
Per rule 402, that is allowed. I'll second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
Yes,
Counselor Pelham. I'm sorry, did you say yes?
yes,
I meant Mrs. Pelham, did you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, meeting's been extended. I see Counselor Gore's hand up for discussion.
Yes. Just for a point of clarity, there wasn't a second to Counselor Randolph's motion, so we're on, correct?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Can you restate that?
Parliamentary question. There was not a second to Counselor Randolph's motion to amend.
I second it.
Did?
I second it. Yes, ma'am.
So my hand is for discussion, for the actual discussion. So I'll put lower until it's time.
Oh, okay. All right. And Counselor Randolph, your hand is up, or you just have it
I
up?
just forgot it.
Okay, no problem. Roll call, please.
Mr. Park,
This is the motion to amend, to allow the amendment of the amended motion.
Yes.
Counselor Denton,
yes,
Counselor Pelham,
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
yes, ma'am, I can hear you now. That was a yes, and an emphatic yes almost.
Yeah.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
No.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay. Counselor Randolph, would you like
Yes.
to make your amended motion?
My amended motion is to delete IRs and CCRs from the current council agenda and to have CRs on the agenda and to also limit any counselor from having more than 2 items on any one agenda as a CR.
Second.
Right. Motion's been made by Counselor Randolph, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton. Counselor Denton?
I wanted to ask the city manager a question.
We in roll, point of order.
Yes.
We're in roll call. You can't, it's no more discussion, is it? Are we in roll call or we're in discussion?
We're in discussion. The motion's been made by Counselor Randolph, seconded by Vice Mayor Parton, and it's before the body for discussion. Counselor Pelham?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I mean, if you can, what I was trying to do, and I think this would be a part of the motion that's on the floor. In the past, how has council, could you tell us how council has handled the CRs?
Okay, Counselor Denton, I'm going to stop you right there. You have to, are you asking a point of information? Because you're going to
A
speak
point of
to,
I guess information, then, yeah, I just need him,
okay.
point of information. If he can tell me how, when you were here before, how were the CCRs done? We didn't have IRs at that time. How were they handled? When were they? Yeah, how did we do that then?
Okay, so during my previous tenure with the city, you're correct, we didn't have IRs at that time. So the CCR was an opportunity if a citizen had an issue that wanted to bring before council, or a counselor had an issue, the citizen or the counselor could put that item on the agenda for council's consideration. Council would discuss the item. If a majority of council felt that it was worthy of being discussed further or moved forward, typically that item was referred to the city manager at the time for he and staff to review the issue at hand and bring back a recommendation for resolution of the item. And once the item went from the CCR and majority of council said, yes, we want this further investigated, it was then placed on the pending list. The counselor, the manager and staff would review the item, bring back a recommendation, and was brought back and put on council's agenda. The item was removed from the pending list at that point in time.
Okay, and that's what I basically said a while ago. Okay.
Counselor Gore?
Yes, I'm not in favor of this motion because of several things. The first being the limitation of IR, CCR, CRs, whatever the verbiage is, from a member of council, I feel like will still create an opportunity for censorship. And I'm going to keep using that word because in my personal opinion, for the last 2 years, that's what has occurred. Right now, members of council have the authority, actually it's their duty to vote on items placed before them. And as I stated before, and I've stated historically, you have the option to approve, deny, amend, or whatever you want to do, but the decision is yours as each individual counselor. What has happened and why I'm not in favor of limiting CCRs or any type of council request is because that right was stripped by directly voting to adjourn the meeting right before we get to council requests, voting to amend the agenda.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Yes, Counselor Denton, what's your point of order?
I think we all know, we've heard this. I don't think this is speaking right to the motion. I think this is
So Counselor Gore at this time is saying why she is for and why she's not against the motion. And her, she is stating that those reasons right now. So I will allow her to finish.
Thank you. So again, I'm against the motion because of the limitation of CCRs. And to finish my thought is because for the past 2 years, motions were made to adjourn the meeting right before we got to individual requests. Motions were made to amend the agenda to remove individual requests. Motions were made to to not attend special meetings to vote on individual requests. And that in itself disenfranchised entire wards because their elected officials were unable to get votes, remedies on the items placed before council, which is their job to vote on items. Limiting CCRs still does not eliminate the problem of council not voting. So we can limit it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if a majority of council still wishes to ignore requests by undermining their submission, then we'll still be in the same situation. And the reason why I'm also against this is because the backlog that was created for council requests was not due to the submission of 20, 10, or 15 submissions at a time. It was due to the desire to have their wards represented, in particular mine.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
I think, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Point of order.
I'm sorry, Mayor, but I believe that the opinion of the mayor is going beyond her reasons for and against. She's speaking to actions of other council members and putting forth her thoughts as to why those actions were taken. I don't think that that is a fair and accurate thing that she should be doing in her description. If she certainly has the right to say what she feels, but not to the point of putting forth her thoughts and ideas as to why any other council member did something.
And Madam Mayor, point of order to also consider before you rule on that, I was actually addressing comments made by Council Randolph in particular when she gave her thoughts and opinions on the very same matter. So
Councillor Gore,
I'm also,
we don't have those facts in front of us or those written minutes.
you just
Is
stated.
it okay if you can just keep it to why you're for and why against without anything that's accusatory to cause any type of argument right now?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll do that, and I'll ask that it's reciprocated across council because the remarks I'm referencing, she made not even 5 minutes ago, but I'll continue. I'm against this motion about limitation of council CCRs because if council chooses to not yield to being censored through motions and chooses to put items back on the agenda and to ensure that their ward gets answers, that should be their right to do so. The reason why I'm against limitation of CCRs is because if the actions continue that have occurred for the past 2 years in which items are denied a vote, you can essentially roadblock a member of council from getting an answer. So if you limit it to 2, if council chooses to not address the 2, they'll never get an answer. And then they have to just move on to different topics. And then you still get no resolution. So in my opinion, for this to only work is if council also commits in this motion to vote on every CCR or CR or IR placed before them, since it is their jobs as elected officials.
Would you like to ask Councilor Randolph
To make a friendly amendment, thank you for this.
to add that to her motion?
Yes, so Councilor Randolph, would you accept the friendly amendment to your motion that if you limit CCRs, that council commits to vote on all items placed before them from a member of council on the agenda?
I understand your request. I respect your request, but I can't add something that is so blindly positive or negative one way or the other. I can't make everybody vote on something or say that they're going to vote on something.
Well,
So I'm sorry, no.
Okay, so just for clarity, our agendas are created for us to take action. That is the whole purpose of having council meetings, and that is the whole purpose of having city council agendas. So every item placed before us on our agenda that requires a motion is seeking action. So council has to take some sort of action, whether it's a table, deny, do whatever. So again, if a matter is placed on the agenda seeking action, just like it would be from the city manager, city clerk, city attorney, or a guest, would council respect their peers and also give action, whether it is yes, no, or whatever their action is.
Councilor Gore, are you saying that there's a lot of things going on.
Mhm.
Are you for or against the motion? If you're not for the motion, you've stated.
So I was-
Now we have gone into asking questions. So are
Right.
you going to,
I took your recommendation to ask her if she. I was giving her clarity because she
Okay.
said broad. So I was
Okay.
just saying the city manager, when he places items on the agenda, sometimes it's for discussion, sometimes it's for vote. The same thing can apply to a member of council. Sometimes you may have discussion, sometimes you want votes. So to treat equal when items are submitted to the agenda for the friendly amendment. So if the action is requested, that council will commit to voting.
We have already in our abilities as council members to do something on everything that is on the agenda, whether it is to hear it and vote on it or to skip over it or whatever. But I cannot make a motion that would require council to have to vote on everything if that's what you're asking me to do.
Okay, well, no, I'll just say this last thing and then I'll yield because I sense that you don't want to. How about, can you commit to not voting to skip over a request of another member of council that's been submitted?
Me personally, or have it in part as part of my motion?
As part of the motion.
I can't speak to everybody on council in one motion to tell them that they cannot skip. That is a right given to council as a body that they can do that should they have the votes. So I'm sorry, I can't change that and make them not have that ability.
No, that's fine. I'll yield the floor and just for the record, the questions asked is no different than the other rules we just voted on, making council adhere to something, but I'll yield. Thank you.
Call for the vote.
okay, so, call for the vote on the floor. Second?
I second it.
Second,
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Counselor Gore. The motion's been made by Vice Mayor Parton and seconded by Counselor Gore. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Denton,
yes.
Counselor Pelham,
Yes.
Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes, and Madam Mayor, can my remarks regarding the friendly amendment be added to the record?
Just regarding the friendly amendment?
Yes, the specific requests for the friendly.
So I just want to let council know. And I'm sorry, you do not have to, per our rules right now, and I just was brought to the attention, and I'm sorry to pause this. I want council to know, Ms. Robinson, can you please point out the rule that any counselor can make a request to have their comments or remarks be placed on the minutes without the chair's approval. And that is how the rules are written at this time. So I want all of council to know that. And that
Yes.
is per rule. I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, that's Rule 403. When I sent out I think it was the integrated rules, I indicated to the entire group that as I was compiling the two sets of rules, that on occasion I had relied on the former rule or the old rule in opining on points of order. This is one of those rules. So according to the current rule, a counselor may direct, and this is direct the city clerk through the mayor, that the draft minutes of the meetings include a brief summary of the counselor's remark on an agenda item. So with respect to that language, as between the former version, there is no need to get the permission of the mayor for that to be done. It is a right to every counselor at this stage.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
And Madam Mayor, may I state that I would like that my responses to the friendly amendment to be added to And I know we don't have to ask you to do that, but I'm doing that since we don't really have a clerk at this point, even though Mr. Altman is doing a great job.
Yeah, so
Thank
have-
you. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
And I
so,
hope that, yes, Counselor Gore.
yeah, I still had the floor, so I didn't, when you asked for Ms. Robinson.
Oh,
provide-
I apologize. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that you didn't have to ask for my permission.
No. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking for Counselor Randolph, so we didn't get to the next point. So thank you for that clarity. Just to have on the record for the friendly amendments in my position for voting no, as I stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna make a human mistake. Mr. Altman, please tell me where I am right now.
Meeting adjourned.
You're in Hopewell, Virginia.
We asked for, okay, I'm sorry.
So where we're at,
Motion been made to call for the vote. That passed. The
Right.
voted on the floor.
we're voting on Counselor Randolph's motion to amend the motion, which was to delete IRs and CCRs from the agenda, to have CRs or counselor requests on the agenda, and to limit those counselor requests to 2 CRs on any one council agenda per counselor.
Madam Mayor,
There was a call for the vote. It passed. The vote on the floor.
but is a point of information
Yes.
overruled?
Yes.
Okay, well, in light of what the city attorney said, is there any way that I can can it be made whole that my comments made tonight be printed as well on every issue?
So with that being said, I have to gain clarity from the city attorney, because those requests can be made during that motion and discussion.
But
So are you okay if I revert that to the city attorney and see if that is?
But let her understand that that's a new opinion on the issue. So I didn't know that basically based on the last opinion. So I
Okay.
would have done that throughout this meeting if I had known that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just that was the first time it came up
No,
to.
I know, I understand. I appreciate you sharing that
Yeah.
with me. I really do.
Okay. Ms. Robinson, is there any verbiage that states we are supposed to, that limits, excuse me, let me gather my thoughts. So right now, Counselor Pelham is asking her comments that she has made throughout the entire meeting or in different motions be added to the minutes.
Yes, I heard the comments, and
Mhm.
under the current rule as well as the previous rule, the request has to be in close proximity to the discussion. So
Okay.
under the current rule, it says as the last sentence, such direction must be given at the same meeting in which the remarks were made and prior to the next agenda item. In the former rule, the request has to be made about with respect to statements on any subject under consideration. And under consideration, in my view, would be those that are being discussed in close temporal proximity and not like sort of applying to the entire meeting. So you couldn't do it prospectively at the beginning of a meeting, and you can't do it retroactively in a meeting. It has to be basically at the time a discussion ends or during the course of that discussion in order for it to meet the limitations of the rule.
Okay.
For this discussion then.
Yes,
Can I-
ma'am.
can I
You don't
have-
have, yes,
Thank you so much.
no problem.
I have another piece of information. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're fine. You're totally okay.
Oh, I just want to get clarity on the Ms. Robinson. is this rule going to be retroactively applied? Because we have already submitted our agenda items per our current rules. And so this should apply to the next agenda because we've already acted under our current rules and that's already underway. I just wanted clarity on my items since we operated under a current rule at the time they were due.
So the rule is this: when a rule is adopted, it takes effect immediately, and it's prospectively. The deadline for the next meeting for agenda submissions have already passed, so it would not apply to those. Now, if council wanted to say, however, we are not going to make this effective immediately, we're going to make it effective some date in the future, it can do that.
So this is for the second February meeting, correct?
No,
All right.
It
What
would,
is-
it would, it
what
would
is
not be for the, it would not be for the first meeting because the agenda submission deadline has already passed.
Right.
And
Okay.
so what is supposed to be on the agenda for next week should have already been submitted. And so it would not apply even under the current rules because those deadlines are already gone.
Okay,
It would be
that's how it's-
prospective in its application. So the
Yep.
next deadline to which it would apply would be the second meeting in February.
Thank you. Just want to get clarity before we vote. I appreciate it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But-
Let me restate the motion.
The motion is to delete IRs and CCRs from the agenda, to have counselor requests or CRs on the agenda, to limit counselors to 2 CRs on any one council agenda. Is that correct, Ms. Randolph?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Denton,
yes,
Counselor Pelham.
Yes.
Was that a yes, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Counselor Randolph,
Yes.
Counselor Holloway,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yep.
Motion carries 6-0. That concludes this item and your meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Right.